Happy Thursday night, everyone.
Man, you almost stumbled. We did a Wednesday night one. I think we're throwing off our game.
We're throwing off. Lena Khais, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love it. So we're laughing a little bit because, you can't love one of your children more than the other, but you kind of secretly do. And Thursday night might be our sort of the kid we like the best, just because the energy is always kind of fun.
It's always looser. It seems, the Friday morning people, they tend to be a little bit stiffer in general.
Yeah. So welcome to the Thursday night chaos, I guess.
I hope you chose right.
Yeah. I hope you chose right. Everything is riding on this one decision.
She's gonna be like, I wanted to talk about taxes.
Yeah.
Well, now that you bring that up.
Yeah, now that you bring it up. So, Lena, I really enjoyed our when we first met conversation. Tom, Lena, and I are in a networking group together, and it was we had a great conversation. But I want to get into sort of like how you got to be where you're at right now, because I do like your story a lot, and I thought that might be a great way to kind of get this thing going.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your favorite night of the week. I really appreciate that. I feel special. I totally hear what you say about favorite kids. We love our kids. And then there's also the kid that we also like.
Yeah.
So, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm laughing. We all have kids on this call. So, we'll...
For sure.
Wink, wink, nod, nod. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I could have been a monk.
Yeah.
The deeper into teenage years I get, the more I'm like, what the fuck was I doing?
Yeah.
You were almost in that Zen monastery, man.
Really though, like that book, What You Expect When You're Expecting, tells you nothing really.
No.
Not once the kid is out.
And what I always thought about was funny about that is the part of child raising that I had the least amount of complications with was the part that book is supposed to help you with. So I'm like, I didn't even need a fucking book for that part. Like that part felt like autopilot compared to anything that came after that. Right. Like,
well, yeah, when you count as a human burrito, there isn't really much to do.
Yeah. You're good until they're yelling back at you.
Yeah.
I keep calling my parents going, what do I do here? And they're like, man, I don't know. And I'm like, the fuck you don't know. I made it.
I am pretty sure I have never asked that question of my parents, mostly because I'm not interested in the conversation that would come out of that question.
Well, according to my dad, he always goes, why are you asking? You're going to do the opposite anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I'm like, it's worked out for me so far.
That's the relationship every business owner has with social media. They go there and they always say, what do I do? And they're like, 50,000 well-meaning bots, and they're like, I knew you were all idiots. I'm going to do what I want.
So, Lena, how did you come to be where you are, and what are you doing now, and all that stuff? But let's back it up and tell the story.
So it's interesting you ask in the context of kids, because if you ask my mom, she would take full credit. And the way I got here was actually a pretty twisted road, but you probably picked up on my accent. So yes, I'm imported. I was born in Eastern Europe and never really thought that I was going to live in the United States. I mean, I watched 90210. It looked legit, but I never really thought I was going to be here. And
now that you're here, are you shocked how similar it is to 90210?
Oh, man, that was such a marketing misread.
Yeah,
everything in the U.S. is distorted. What are you talking about?
Yeah. When I landed at JFK, I was like, "Wait a minute, is this like a wrong United States?" Like
you were technically you were on the wrong coast.
Yeah, I mean,
not even the state of town. I'll give you touche.
Yeah, that should be more like Friends, where people that are unemployed can afford like a 3-bedroom apartment.
Yeah,
in Manhattan.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like 6,000 square feet. You're like, yeah. That's a $20,000 a month apartment. I'm just saying. And
that was a $20,000 apartment back when it was on in the 90s.
Yeah. Oh man, no.
I promise we're going to talk about what you want to talk about soon. We get a little goofy on Thursdays.
90210. I live my podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And technically, we're a health podcast, so I don't know how it all works, but we've been doing it for a while.
Somehow it'll end up being where it needs to be. Yeah.
We're just focusing on mental health. We're laughing. We're keeping it light.
Yeah, that's exactly right. See, look she's driving it home anyway.
She knows what's going on.
She knows. It's almost like you've done this before.
We're all energy. It's all going to even itself out.
Yeah. So why are you here? What happened? What got you on the plane?
To Matt, the question he keeps asking, like, what got you? So it was 90s. It was last century. And that just happened to be when my prom was. And during the prom, I had a pretty serious fallout with my boyfriend. So if you were expecting like a really deep story, how I escaped USSR regime, I'm working on it. There is not one right now, but I had a fallout with my boyfriend and decided to teach him a lesson.
He's probably still very upset by this. And he probably thinks about it daily.
I think she's from Eastern Europe. She probably killed him.
Yeah.
Decided to actually go over the pond and go to college somewhere far, far away because I was teaching him a lesson.
Sure. That makes sense.
Right? I mean, like, that's what you do when you're 17. You're like, I'm out of here. So I came to the United States. I was fortunate in a way that my mom already lived here. So I was raised by my grandparents. And when I got here, I was like, okay, well, we now know wrong coast, but what are you going to do? I was already here. So if you are a kid who is an immigrant, you have two paths. You either become a doctor or a lawyer. And if you don't do either of those, your parents are not trying hard enough.
Interesting.
So I started down the path of becoming a doctor and quickly realized that I would be doing a favor to humanity if I pivoted.
Fair.
How is that for the health podcast?
All of the doctors out there probably thank you.
Honestly, most of the doctors are trying to pivot mid-career now.
Yeah. Exactly.
They're like, this ship is sinking. We got to go.
Yeah.
So I was already in my junior year because, little known fact, when you go into pre-med, most of the time as you're starting, you're spending like doing anatomy, physiology, chemistry, like all the good stuff, like you're playing in the lab. Like you actually don't see humans. And then when you're in your junior year, they're like, hello, welcome. And you're like, what just happened here? So that was like another not 90210. Fortunately for me, I had a very decent clinical advisor who was like, we got to do something about this. Pivot. So I graduated with a degree.
Little friends call back there, by the way. I'll just throw that out there. Like you didn't say it with the right affect, but that was a friend's reference. Just keep going. Sorry.
So I graduated with a degree in psychology and mind and chemistry. So that was like educated, unemployed right there.
Sure. Well, you could be a teacher.
You can make drugs.
You could make drugs.
You make mental health drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, let's keep all options on the table. I decided we're going to throw money at the problem, and I went into graduate school. But now, Tom, thinking back, you have a good point. There were other paths. So at that time, there was a new branch of psychology that was starting called industrial organizational psychology. So basically, we're people, psychologists, who worked in a corporate setting helping leaders get out of their head. Now, nobody called us mindset coaches or manifestation coaches. We were called leadership development. But long story short, and that's actually, I'm surprised that it kind of catches people off guard, but just about every executive has a coach.
Sure.
Because even though for us, they have made it, many of them struggle with the same challenges as we do in private sector. The imposter syndrome, the old money stories, that am I better than my brother? Am I delivering for my parents? Is this sustainable? Am I doing everything I can for the family? Do I even like my family? Like it's all of that. And then also you add a thing to the mix like, oh, and also I need to go and talk to Wall Street and tell them that we're not going to do that great this quarter. how's that going to land? I did that for 25 years. So 25 years I worked with really successful, talented people, helping them not just set the goals, but surpass the goals, because nobody wants to meet the goal, right? They all want to do better.
Yeah, that's the whole sub contest, right? I did better at exceeding my goals than you did.
And what I started noticing was kind of interesting. It seemed like people with a very similar drive, very similar education, and pretty consistent support would have different results. So there were some who were actually climbing that corporate ladder like there was no tomorrow. And there were others who kept bouncing with lateral moves. And it was really not the effort, it was not the strategy, it was not the discipline, it was something else. And at that time, I already had a lot of friends who were in a private sector having their own businesses. And I was seeing similar phenomenon where people in the same niche, as we call it, some were doing amazing and others were kind of like struggling. So I get super curious about what is the difference? Like, what is the formula for success? So we're going to fast forward. It's pre-COVID. And just like the rest of the world, we're cooped up at home. And we're scrolling through Netflix. And my husband and I stumbled upon the documentary Secret.
Mm-hmm.
What's that one about? I don't know if I know that one.
The Secret. It's just, it was a movie version of the book.
Oh, okay.
So the episode that people usually know from The Secret is how a guy built a vision board. And one of the elements on that vision board was a pretty beautiful house. And 5 years later, he actually bought that very house. So it kind of brought that concept of mind over matter and how we can curate our reality using the power of the mind.
Okay.
Now, when you watch that for like first time and it's like Friday night and you're like into a couple of beers, that sounds like a fever dream. So we didn't actually take it very seriously. My husband and I laughed it off and kind of dismissed. But I do remember walking out of the family room and in the passing, just saying, listen, to my husband, wouldn't it be kind of cool to manifest an unexpected check in the mail? And my husband is a practical dude, kind of like Tom. You said something.
No. No, believe me. Look, if I show you half the shit I bought off of Temu, none of it is practical.
Yeah.
I need none of it. You want to fucking look at this? This is a Mayan death whistle. I don't need this. I'm not Mayan.
Oh,
sounds like hell. It's scary as hell.
We don't need much. We need to eat, drink, and use the bathroom. Everything else is a want. So you're just
very true.
Part of the spectrum of wants,
including the death whistle.
I'm on a spectrum, all right.
Yeah. I know Lena's story here, and I can't wait for Tom to hear this because, like, I'm waiting with bated breath. I'm like, I gotta get into this story.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm joking around too much.
No.
My husband is a practical dude like Matt, so we're gonna add
wrong again.
All right, Lena, maybe we just move on from this one.
I understand what practical means. You don't have to give us an example. They're not in the room with us.
We have none of that here. Like, I have to.
There's absolutely nothing.
Oh my God.
They don't book the Thursday night show. Let me tell you that.
You know, practical, like somebody I'm sure exists somewhere sometime.
A hypothetical person who has things planned out well.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, we understand.
You just gained a couple of followers, I think.
Yeah.
So basically what happened that night was him look at me going like, yeah, I guess it wouldn't suck. Like, that was the extent of his practical head nod. Couple weeks later, when I go to pick up mail, there is a refund check in the mailbox. Now, I don't want to like totally bedazzle this. It wasn't $1 million. It was $125 from Radio Shack.
She definitely bought 2 Starbucks with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the cool part about that wasn't actually the amount, right? It was the proof of concept.
That it happened.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, listen, so success is not magic. It is no more magic than when we're sitting and watching a magician performing a show. And I mean, we're mesmerized. But magician knows how the bunny got into the hat. And in that moment, I was like, wait a minute. If I can reverse engineer this, I can teach my kids how to live life by design instead of default. And then I can help so many other people who feel like they're kind of just like wobbling and stumbling through life. Like it doesn't have to be hard. So back to my mom. She is a quantum physicist. She has a PhD in quantum physics.
I forgot. I forgot.
You're going to try and live up to that? Fuck it.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation and I said, Mom, so like I have another disappointment for you. She's like, okay. So I said, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a lawyer. She's like, I know. You haven't been that for 25 years. I said, and also I'm quitting corporate and starting my own business. And she went, what? I said, and actually I want to pick your brain because I think if I can bring my understanding of the magic with your understanding of quantum physics, I can curate a formula that I can show people how they could live their life by design. And she said,
did she follow that up with, you pot smoking hippie? What are you talking about?
Are you on the drugs?
Are you on the drugs?
Are you on the drugs?
That was the actually said that totally won me over. She said, quantum physics simply proved in the lab what spiritual leaders knew for centuries. Now we just have a visual proof. And I was like, stop it.
Yeah, I like your mom. Yeah.
That was actually very interesting.
Sure.
Now, I wish that was the night when the formula came to me. But in my typical fashion, now as we know, we're going to throw money at the problem and we're going to start taking different courses and certifications and tap into the wisdom of those who know what they were doing. And you know what? At first, it was getting worse. Like it was getting worse. I was caught in this really odd world of dichotomy where people were either super spiritual to the point where it was almost like the select few. Like you were either gifted with some knowing and like you would get like those white doves coming from heaven, or sit and wait until they do. That didn't work for me. Or there was this very traditional school of thought, think and grow rich, think into results, figure out what you want, script it 50 times, 3 times a day. I was like, that feels so hard. Like, what is the happy medium? So after years of playing with it, I finally was able to derive 4 components. There are 4 dials that if you adjust to your liking, you can get anything you want.
Well, I'm listening. I'm like, yes. Yeah, no.
Does it work if you have a hit list?
Yeah.
Can I curse people? That's what I want. I'm petty.
Don't actually manifest anything for another person, but you can create your reality where they don't exist.
Interesting.
I'll start with that.
Yeah. So, Lena, since you and I had this conversation originally, I've thought a lot about our conversation, a lot because of the conversation, but a little bit in anticipation of this one. And I think one of the things that I really wanted to sort of dig into with you here is I love the idea of manifestation, right? And you and I talked about that. And I do think there's a lot to that, but I'm also a practical guy, in some regards, not most, but in a couple. And one of them is like if I'm committed to something, we can call that manifestation, we can call it commitment, we can call it whatever you want, right? If I'm committing to something, I likely, consciously or otherwise, am creating variables that lead inevitably to this place, right? Like if you really, really, really are you got rigor behind something,
Yep. 100%.
God himself ain't getting in your way. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like, I just always wonder, like, how do we, and at the end of the day, does it even fucking matter? You know what I mean? Like, does it fucking matter? If it works, sweet. Who cares why it works?
Sorry, can you repeat that question again, Matt?
No, not a problem at all. I said, if you commit to something, then you're probably putting wheels in motion to get there. For a number of reasons. Do we even care though? Because whether it works for this reason or that reason or this reason, if you get there, it really doesn't matter. I don't know how we label the success, but I can't help but to think manifestation is just a fancy word sometimes for you just got your shit together and put your fucking mind to it and ended up going in that
Matt
direction.
is suggesting that it doesn't matter if it's placebo or actually the medicine, you know, as long as the result is what you want, who cares, you know?
But I do think that it starts with manifesting. You have to commit to
you have to intend upon it.
So manifestation is actually neutral. And it's not just about what you want. It is also about something that you're really, really afraid of.
Oh.
Because manifestation is nothing more than turning thoughts into things.
Okay.
Equally, how if you really want something, and to your point, you ladder up your actions to get to that point. If you're equally worried about something, afraid about something, inadvertently you manifest that into your life because it is simply the universal law. What you think about the most materializes. What you talk about the most, you speak into existence. What I help people with is to become an intentional manifester. So you actually focus on what you want and get that as a result of it versus spending time and spinning your wheels worrying about the worst case scenario. We have this universal law of contrast. We might like it or we might not like it, but at every point in time, we register. Do I like this or do I not like it? Do I like it or do I not like it? As adults, we're taught how to avoid not liking something instead of focusing on what would I rather love and having our vector, our momentum set that way. So is it a placebo effect? 100%. It's actually your thoughts turning into things effect.
Interesting.
Because we can take the medicine that has helped thousands of people, but if you choose to believe that it's not going to work for you, you're going to prove yourself right.
My wife, I call her the nocebo queen because like basically like she just refuses to let anything like work, like that's not, you know, not even a pills even. I mean, honestly, at this point, I think she could will codeine out of her system if she really tried. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's funny because I'm the opposite, man. If somebody tells me there's like a 1% chance this is working, it's doing it in spades for me. Like I am like the placebo queen, you know what I mean? Like it is like, I am all over that. So it is just funny. It's something I laugh about, but I mean, I think that means to me that I am pre-manifesting that as a default mode network where she's pre-manifesting in the opposite kind of way. But it's funny that you say that because a lot of times like, oh, what the worst things that's going to happen, that is going to happen. And she's like, I'm telling you. And then sure as shit, something like that comes out and becomes reality. And I'm like, the chances of this have happened are infinitesimal. Like they are so small. Like, and then I'm sitting there going, damn it, if she wasn't right about this. But like, to your point, I do have always suspected that she's sort of bringing those things into her orbit.
100%. Because at the end of the day, we are the energy bundles. And by the law of attraction, likes attract likes. We want to be intentional about our thoughts, because what is a thought? It's a frequency.
Sure.
When we're thinking about something, we are sending frequency into the universe. What it's doing, it's matching and passing back to us a matching frequency. So, I mean, we can all think of people in our lives who are just lucky. They're just so fortunate.
Yeah.
They always get that princess parking right outside of the restaurant when it's pouring rain.
Mm.
And they will tell you, I don't know how I do it, I just do it. I just know there's going to be a parking spot. That's the quote unquote magic. They are at the frequency of yes, I can have it. Growing up, many of us have heard stories from parents. Oh, you know, those rich people, they make money out of thin air. Why? Because they were at the frequency of abundance. Money was coming easily to them, and it looked like money was generating money. Well, what's the opposite of that? People who are always in debt. So when somebody comes to me and says, you know what, I want to pay off debt. My goal, hello, money manifestation coach, help me pay off debt. And I say that is a wrong intention. Because if you're in the business of paying off debt,
you're always going to have debt.
Explain how many times we've had the experience where we're so disciplined paying off the credit card, and when we're almost at zero, AC blows up.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because universe is reading your dominant intent, which is I want to be paying off debt. What do you need to pay off debt?
Money.
Yeah. Money.
Debt.
Oh, you need debt.
You need to have debt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
That's a little tragic when you think about it. You're like, I need debt in order to. Yeah, that is.
You go to the core, right? It's like when people say, I want to have more clients. And I say, why? What do you mean when you say you want more clients? Well, like I'm going to make more. That's not the exact correlation.
Right.
You can get a whole bunch of tire kickers who are going to be considered your clients, but that isn't going to move your business forward. Or you can attract some people who are literally your humans. They're on your frequency. They're vested, they're driven, they're interested in what you have to offer. And then it's not about the volume. There is no value in the volume. It is all about the quality of the frequency.
So how do you get, I got to imagine that, I mean, first of all, I would think that a lot of people don't necessarily come to you in an acute situation. Like, it's not like they're not, jumping off a building tomorrow if things don't shape up. Like, these are people that are like, it seems that are taking like a more proactive step towards, making things smoother right now, but not necessarily hinging on it. Is that fair? Like, or
it depends, because there is no like single definition of what is going to push somebody over the edge.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fair.
I've had people come to me who had substantial amounts sitting in their checking accounts, but the fear of losing it was paralyzing their lives and their businesses. They were operating in such state of scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
Even taking $1,000 of $700,000 account felt depleting.
Mm.
So, I mean, that's, and clearly that's a mindset issue, but that seems to be one of the hardest things for people to change, right? Like giving up a belief, whether it's serving us or not. I mean, we can point to 1,000 political examples right now, but like that, I see it every day in my clinic. I see it in myself. I see it in my family. Getting somebody to just, and it could be just that simple, right? One little thing, just change how you feel about this, how you think about this. What is that because that's kind of where I think you come in, right? I mean, that's the secret sauce, right? How you get somebody to abandon something that's no longer serving them.
So I love that question, Tom, because I think we have glorified the concept of a limiting belief, where we give it more weight than what it really holds.
Oh.
And the way I look at it, a limiting belief, it is just a practice thought that we have accepted as the truth. So, when I do workshops, I usually bring a creamer because I'm a huge coffee drinker, and I have a frother, that little thing that you get on Amazon, $19.99.
Good IKEA, $5.99.
Yeah.
It's not a practical guy, right? So when you first start with a creamer, it's pretty liquidy, right? It's almost like milk, maybe a little thicker. But if you take a frother and you put it into that creamer, half and half, and you turn it on, the longer you keep it, the thicker that substance becomes. So you end up with like thick foam, almost cream. That's what's happening in our mind. Every single day, we have millions of thoughts passing through. Millions of thoughts. And most of them are fleeting. But some of them get caught. And our mind, which is the frother, starts frothing it on repeat. The longer that thought runs in our mind, the thicker it becomes, the more density it gains, and it becomes a belief. Now, just like the frother doesn't care if it's a fresh creamer or sour milk, our mind doesn't care if it's a thought that moves us forward or if it's something that limits us. It just does its job. And also, limiting beliefs, they're not curses. We're not born with them. A lot of times in business, beliefs become limiting when they have served the purpose and we outgrew them. So let me give you a for instance. So many of us, when we started our businesses, we were solopreneurs, right? We were Swiss Army knife. You were the marketer and the salesperson and customer support and IT and this and that and that. And it felt good in the moment because we were holding all those balls in the air. We were actually learning our own business. So the thought of if you want to get it done, do it yourself was kind of frothing. However, if you're looking to scale your business, if you want to serve many, if you really want to have that impact on the expansion of the world, you probably want to expand who you work with. You probably want to outsource some of the things. You continue holding on to the belief that in order to get it done right, you have to do it yourself. You're going to limit yourself. That's how a belief becomes a limiting belief.
Right. And I see this with clients all the time in their business. Like, if things are right now, the boogeyman's AI, right? Everyone, your business is down because AI, fucking, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's a thing. But what is also a thing is that there's a lot of companies that are being started because of that same exact technology. And I saw this in the writer's strike too. All these writers are striking to try to get rid of AI, and a couple actors at the time, I think Bruce Willis was one of them, licensed their voices out. And I'm like, okay, so look what's happening at the same time. You've got one set of people with a very limiting belief that AI, in the writer's case, was going to decimate this industry. Everyone would be gone. And another group didn't have that. It said, I'm just going to make more money licensing my voice. Just, And I laugh because to me it's so crystal clear, but it becomes opaque as shit when it's on my business. And that's what I always find interesting.
Well, I think that's it, right? You can see something a mile away of someone else's, a red flag they have, but your own, you're like, no, not me.
Yeah,
no.
Which is what I love about the idea of manifestation and this whole idea, because if you do have a clarity of direction, in what you can produce as thought output, then if you're not producing clear thoughts, there is in fact only an internal situation to blame for that, because otherwise we know you are physically capable. So if you actually can redivert that energy or redirect that energy, I should say, then that's an intriguing concept. I just struggle with how do I make that change at that core level, because that's the part I think me and I suspect almost everybody else.
Everybody.
Yeah, that's where they get hung up, right? Like making that.
So let me give you 3 steps.
Let's do it.
They're not the panacea, but they're a fair start.
Sure.
And I think if people want to try them for a fit, it will start this moving in the right direction. So the first question you want to ask yourself about any belief that you hold, is it even mine?
Right.
Do you actually believe into that? Let me tell you a funny story. Growing up, my mom and my grandma always told me, don't touch a bird's feather if you find it on the ground. You're going to get sick. No explanation, no reasoning, no evidence. But I've heard that over and over and over again. So I was like, okay, we're not touching birds' feathers when we find them on the ground. Imagine my shock when I was in my 40s and I started doing this work and I started meeting with all these different spiritual advisors. And one of them goes, every time you find a feather on the ground, I want you to pick it up and bring it home. And I was like,
so you want me to have Ebola? Is that what you're telling me?
And I distinctly remember him looking at me and going like, you're all right. I'm like, I am so not all right.
Yeah, the opposite, dude.
Like the opposite of okay. What do you mean? You want me to pick it up with my hand? Like, why? And he was like, well, because when it's a known fact that when you find a feather on the ground, it's your spirit guides trying to show support and give you like a burst of energy. And I was like, but like, can I touch it with my hands? And he's like, where is this coming from? I'm just curious. I'm like, well, my mom said.
He's like, I'm going to stop you right there.
He goes, is that you? Do you even believe it? And I was like, oh my God. Actually, that was never my belief. I have no evidence. I have no reason. I have nothing to back it up. That belief is not even mine. I would tell you 80% of political fights on internet are about feathers. People are regurgitating somebody else's thoughts. They don't even actually believe in that, but they've heard it enough times. It just sounds like the fact. So your first step is ask yourself, is this even my thought? Is this my belief? Do I actually believe it? So sound will dismantle it right there and then. So if it's not your thought, just return it to sender. The second question is it a fact or is it my perception? How many entrepreneurs will say, I suck at selling? Oh, I hate selling.
All of them.
All of them, yeah.
Every one of them. Yeah.
Is that a fact? Or could that be your perception? What is your measuring stick? What is the scale? What are you comparing yourself against? Could it be that you have never learned how to sell? Could it be that you haven't actually taken upon yourself to understand the science and the art of sale and sales psychology? Could we look at sale as an act of service? Like so many things we can do, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa. So maybe if you put away the lens of like magnifying glass, looking at yourself like the biggest loser, and realize that life is kaleidoscope and you can turn it and look at the perspective that actually serves you better, all of a sudden you're like, you know what, that was my perspective. Many business owners will say, oh, I cannot charge more. Nobody's going to pay that. Is that a fact? Have you tested? Or could it be your perception? So that's the second question that really shakes that mold. Now, in all seriousness, there are going to be beliefs that are yours. You didn't pick them up from grandma. And they're a fact. What do? Well, you are the thinker of your thoughts. What is an alternative that could serve you better? Let me tell you a story. I was working with an incredible young entrepreneur from Singapore. She has inherited the family business after her father passed away. And she caught herself in this really odd revenue plateau situation where it seems like no matter what she did, even if there was a smidge of an improvement, they would roll right back to where they were in the previous quarter. And when we started really looking into what are some of the beliefs that she held, we'll come to find out that she loved and respected her father deeply. And it is also a big part of her culture. So when Dad passed away, she found herself caught between trying to modernize the way the company was doing business and then pulling herself back saying Dad would have not approved that. Well, Dad wasn't there to advise. That was a hard fact. Dad passed away. So we were faced with finding an alternative thought that didn't feel like a lie, but would serve her better. And so where she landed was, you know what? Dad would actually be so proud to know that I am willing to try something new and build upon his legacy instead of just trying to regurgitate what he built in the 20th century in the 21st. A couple months later, she was featured in Singapore's Vogue. This is powerful. Wow. That works.
That's crazy. And so, like, I guess when you phrase it like that, I guess the question I have is, I guess, is it as simple as just saying those things aloud to yourself, basically, like come to the realization, like, I guess when you work that system, right, you actually have to start saying stuff out loud you probably never said before, right? And like all of a sudden hearing yourself say it, I got to think is sobering to the point where you're like, wow, I said that, which means it could technically happen. So wait, let's peel this back. I don't know. I can kind of like dream up how you go down that path.
Can I add to that question too? Is this we're substituting this for something else? Are we doing, do we excise the negative or the thought that's no longer serving us and then plug this in? Is it an override? You know, that kind of thing.
It's both. Because if you simply say, I'm going to stop thinking this thought because it doesn't serve me,
mm-hmm.
It's the equivalent of me saying, Tom, don't think about the elephant. Could you please not think about the elephant? You'd be like, dude, stop saying the word elephant.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When we are working through a limiting belief that has its roots pretty deep into your subconscious, we actually want to start with something neutral. So if a person is literally on the verge of bankruptcy, me telling them, you know what? See yourself as a multimillionaire. That's hurtful. That's actually going to push them further into that demise. What would be a bridging thought? What would feel a little bit safer than thinking about going bankrupt? I'm safe. I am breathing. I'm alive. And I'm a smart person. I can figure things out. That doesn't automatically rule out bankruptcy, but people have filed bankruptcies, lived through it, and then built successful businesses. So we want to get to the bridging thought. You want to find an alternative that feels true. If somebody comes to me and says, I have a gambling problem, I don't know how to invest, I just literally, lost my house, what would be the bridging thought? It would be the rebuilding the relationship with money. And it could be, I learn how I feel about money. It is safe for me to admit that money right now is a shady friend. Like, I kind of like it, but I'm not going to bring it home to my mama. Awareness is the step in the right direction. I think the reason manifestation gets a bad rap, as a lot of gimmicks that people try to adopt from social media, is it's the Googleable stuff, right? It's like, take the pretty pictures from the old magazine, slap it on the paper, call it a vision board, and then think really hard that this is possible for you and then expect it to happen. That's not manifestation. That's delusion. And we have pills for that.
See, you could have been a chemist.
Yeah.
Manifestation is the creative process. It is taking a thought and turning it into a thing. Everything around you is a manifestation. Nothing has happened before the thought. Even a simple thing like a pen, it was somebody's thought that materialized into a physical form.
And it's funny
Now,
when I'd never heard it phrased like that, but I'm looking at my studio here and I'm like, every cord on this desk, everything here is like, was not just me physically procuring that thing and placing it on there, but it was literally like I'm going to create a studio that is worthy of filming anything I might want to ever film. But like long before this was a thing, right? And sure as shit, boom, 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 like it happened in very short order after I kind of made that proclamation. Now, I hadn't thought of it like this. Mostly what I thought of is I'm just an ADHD riddled tech guy who got a bug up his ass to go put a podcast studio together when he didn't have a podcast. But, you know, potato, I guess. I don't know. Like, you know.
Exactly. There was a thought and a degree of a belief or a component of faith that what you were thinking about was achievable, available, and possible for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that drove aligned action, not busy, but aligned actions.
That's a great way of putting it, actually. I constantly struggle to describe that to people. That is an amazing way of phrasing it.
And though I just gave you 2 dials out of my formula, faith and aligned actions. Because success in and of itself is faith expressed in actions. Whether somebody is deep in faith, religious in a traditional way, or somebody who just believes that there is a greater source out there, you want to have faith that what it is that you are wishing for, dreaming about, aiming for, is possible, achievable, and available to you. If you don't have that element of faith, the entire formula falls apart.
Right. Yeah, at a certain point, you got to have an unwavering commitment, which only comes from a place of unwavering trust that you're doing the right thing.
And then those aligned actions come pretty naturally because,
sure,
well, you are aligning yourself to where you had it. So do you want to know
the other? And I find that's almost intuitive, isn't it? Like once you actually are on that path, like I get into a lot of these heady little loopholes with my little manifestations, and you know, it's usually a crooked road to get through that, but it feels like every step is sort of waiting for me to put my foot on it. You know what I mean? Like it's
100%. Because your desire is the destination that you put into the GPS. And I joke that GPS is God's perfect scenario. So you key in the destination, but think about it. Once you do that, you don't get to see the entire trip, right?
Right.
It's one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And serendipitously, we trust that little gadget to get us where we're going, even if it's a 12-hour drive. But when it comes to trusting ourselves, we're like, well, I don't know.
Right.
One leg of the trip at the time.
That is interesting. And so I guess sort of like wrapping up my curiosity circle here, like when people sort of see success in one thing, right? Like they dip their toe in the water and it kind of started working out. Do you find that like this opens up Pandora's box, or are people sort of like, whew, got through that one? Like, you know, because I can see this being a little bit addicting, maybe is the right word, but where you're like, hey, listen, what else can I do with this thing? You know?
It depends. So remember I told you that there are 4 dials?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just adjusted 2. We played with faith and we played with aligned actions. Well, there are 2 more because we live in the world of dichotomy. And it's limiting beliefs, which are practiced thoughts that don't serve you, and resistance, which are fears and the stories that our nervous system tells us to keep us safe. Because the goal of the nervous system is not to help you prosper, it's to keep you safe. Safe meaning safe.
That's an important distinction that I've never heard before.
Think of your nervous system, and your ego lives in the nervous system as the bodyguard. Remember that old movie with Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner?
Called The
The
Bodyguard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would make his job easier? If Whitney Houston was all over the stage performing in front of crowds or sitting quietly in the hotel room?
Sure.
Right. Our nervous system prefers for us to be safe. That's why a lot of times we hear things like, oh, known misery, because at least we know we didn't die. And every time when we try something new, there is ambiguity, there is unknown. And that is rooted deeply in our DNA all the way back to Stone Ages. Because back then, that was real. If you step out of the cave, you could die. So if you stayed inside the cave, inside the box, around the little fire, you were safe. And
You're actually referencing another movie, The Croods.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, the only movie I can think of right now is a Thousand Ways to Die in the West, where they go through all the ways you could die in the 1800s. It is fucking hilarious. Like, oh, the black poop. Yeah, like it just.
Now
I mean,
I gotta go watch that.
yeah. Oh my god, it's so fucking. Anyway, yeah. I'm smiling inside as you're telling that story. I'm like, is it inappropriate to mention Thousand Ways to Die in the West? I'm like, nope, here we are.
Now here we go. We just walk right into it.
I don't think we started a podcast to think about what was inappropriate.
Yeah.
And it's certainly a little too late for that now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. No, but
I love that you're talking about, because we've heard that said before. Doug Brackman in his book talks about, your brain sees every stick as a snake. Basically, I want to keep you safe. The amygdala's job is to keep us from dying. And that's kind of that limits us in a lot of ways.
It does. And the analogy I use when I talk about it with people who I work with is think of your nervous system as a guardian dog. So it's easy for me to say because we've always owned Dobermans and they're a beautiful breed. But I don't need to tell you that if that is an untrained animal, it is a huge liability.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So what I want from my Doberman is to be protective, to be guardian. So like my husband and I can have a date night and not worry about our 16-year-old being home alone. And also, I want my dog to be trained. So if friends come over, if kids come over, I can say, he'll stay and he will listen to me. That's how we want to tame our nervous system. Because in reality, the same way how that animal can actually hurt you trying to protect you. I mean, we've heard stories how a dog would literally launch after like an arm when you were trying to take a remote control because it interpreted as a threat, as a gun or whatever. Mm-hmm. Our nervous system can do the same. I was doing, it was basically a workshop, and the person came up to me after I shared this analogy during the break and said, you don't even know how real it is what you just said. And I was like, no, I'm pretty legit, but do tell. He goes, I actually worked with somebody who was battling cancer and truly got to the point where they're like getting ready to die. And I was really trying to help them get out of it. And I said, my gosh, imagine if we could like fight this and you can get better and you could go back to your job. And she goes, I would rather die.
Wow.
I didn't have a comeback the first time in my life.
That's crazy.
But it is incredible how powerful our mind is. And how if we are sloppy with our manifestation, how if we don't really train our nervous system to listen to us, we can become the hostage of the very same thing that is trying to protect us. So I guess I would say, yes, your nervous system is always there. Its job is to protect you. Please have it on your staff, but don't let it be on your board of directors.
Interesting. Yeah, that story kind of really drives home a couple other people that have told versions of the story where illness is driven from the thought itself. And the first question I ask is, if this is your reaction to the idea of going back to work, is that you'd rather be dead? The fact that you're dying is less confusing now. I'm now, like, cause you're like, well, to your point, if you would literally rather die than work there, then here you go.
Yeah, we will always prove ourselves right. And it's not just me saying it. It's not magic. It's not woo-woo. It's reticular activation system, otherwise known as RAS. We are programmed to look for the evidence of what we set the intention for. When you buy a red Jeep, the entire freaking city now drives red Jeeps. Why? Because now it's a frame of reference. Now you're paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up in the morning, you step on a cat, you burned your coffee, and you're like, that's it. This day is done. You're going to go through your day collecting the evidence of how this was a bad day. How many times we wake up and we intentionally set the vector to be like, today is going to be an amazing day.
Never. No one has ever said those words. Very few people.
Right? Like, today, it's going to be an amazing day. I am going to look for the evidence of how great I am, and I'm going to find it. Or, you know what, today I'm going to see, happy surprises and delights, and I'm going to collect the evidence of it. And now your RAS is activated to look for the happy evidence of surprise and delight.
So that's such a multi-layered problem, because yes, I agree with you, but like the last sentinel you have to get by in that is to have your default mode network, if it's programmed to already look for the worst. You now have one more override you got to punch in there. And that's that layer that I was referring to earlier when I'm like, that's the hard part, right? Like, I'm almost 50. I've got 50 years of practice doing whatever I'm doing, good, bad, or indifferent, right? I got 50 years of proven history. If I wanted to change something starting tomorrow, no matter what I could do above that, there's still that last bodyguard, like at the end of the rope, and that's the one I think I have trouble with. Like, me and that dude are constantly duking it out, man.
And I think that's where finding the bridging thoughts and getting yourself to neutrality actually shifts the momentum in your favor.
This neutrality thing is fascinating.
I think there are too many times when we actually overcommit and underdeliver.
Oh, you don't say. Has that happened to anyone?
No, I'm going to bring it back to frequency. So what happens is our current identity is at a certain frequency. And so many times we're trying to change the actions, the behavior, the thoughts of staying in the identity of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this happens so much in health and fitness, right? The person who used to eat their feelings in donuts all of a sudden says, starting tomorrow, I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I'm going to drink water, eat kale, and do the impossible things. No, you won't. No, you won't. Because we're approaching it backwards. If you think of yourself as a healthy, fit individual, what do? What are your actions?
Yeah, it's probably not eating your feelings.
And it's wild because once you actually step into that identity, a lot of things that you currently do right now will fall by the wayside because they're not fitting anymore. This is actually where AI can be such a helpful tool with mindset work. What I do a lot with, and I primarily work with business owners who are breaking through revenue plateaus. So most of my work is focused on helping people make more money with less effort. Well, there's always that next level identity that already has what the current client wants. The difference is the frequency. So how do I help them? How do I get Tom to be that next level if he hasn't met him yet?
If you can tell me that, I will give you the $120 still in my bank account.
Yes.
So take your $120 because we use AI all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you a reference that's probably going to make you laugh. Do you remember this Christmas? The entire social media was flooded with pictures of ladies in a candy cane suit with candy canes. It was one of those AI prompts.
I didn't see that one. I saw the one make yourself an action figure a while back, and it was the same thing. Like, yeah.
Same principle.
Same
idea. Bottom line is you take your picture, whatever picture you have. It doesn't have to be staged. It doesn't have to be anything from a photo shoot. Your current picture. You upload it to whatever AI engine you use. ChatGPT usually works best. And then you describe your next level identity. You talk about the person who still is you, but has what you're working towards. And you say, create that image for me. Use my picture and let me see that image of me in that next level identity. It is wild. Once you get to see your next level you, what it does to your mindset, to your momentum, to your drive. I actually did that exercise way back when in early 2020, maybe. We didn't really have AI back then. But that was a different approach to doing a vision board. Instead of doing the typical arts and crafts when we like cut out pictures, I took a frame, basically it looked like a magazine cover. And I put my picture as if I was featured on the magazine cover. And I put the highlights, as they normally do on the magazine cover, of things that I would love, which at that time was to become an international best-selling author, international speaker, to own an international business and become a CEO. It was
as long as we're calling out movies, that's a Big Lebowski reference.
Yeah.
sorry.
You know what's wild? I checked every highlight that was.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I highly recommend playing with that concept, whether you trust AI to upload your picture or play with Canva if you don't trust AI. But getting to see yourself, having that visual anchor is powerful.
I'm not lying. I'm going to do that tonight, if not first thing tomorrow morning.
Yeah, no.
Totally doing that. That's immediately actionable.
So many things about there. We can have a whole nother show, and I know we're kind of getting up there.
We probably should have another show. That's Matt's way of asking you to come back.
You know, we could have another show on this, but I got to say, as it pertains to this, there's two things that you said that I think are absolutely like something everyone should look into. One is when I lost a bunch of weight years ago, one of the things that got me sort of my aha moment was you don't say, I can't eat donuts. Because to your point, at some point you're going to cave and eat a donut. That's inevitable. But if someone says, do you want a donut? You say, no, I don't eat donuts. Like just one word difference. Like just, but there's a huge fucking difference between I can't and I don't. You know, like I can smoke a cigarette. I don't smoke, but I could if I needed to, right? Like, yeah. So, and there is a lot of power, I think, in that sort of semantic decision where you're like, look, this isn't a conversation I could have because this isn't part of my identity. It's not part of my talk track. It's not part of my thoughts. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and you went a little different direction with it, but I still think it's kind of ends in the same place, is AI is such a cognitive mirror. And I don't think people spend enough time talking about that, because how AI talks to me is a reflection of how I think about the world itself. And so when clients say, you get so much better results out of AI than we do, I'm like, I don't. I get the same exact results because we're all using the same tool. The only difference is it is only mirroring what you're telling it or what you're asking it or what you're saying. That's it. If you explain the same problem 5 different ways in 5 different windows, you'll have 5 extremely different conversations. And so word choice, we could call that intention. is extremely critical to what you get out of it. And so that exercise that you said, like I said, we ended up kind of in the same spot because that thing gives you a mental image of what you could aim for. Mine sort of makes me, when I do it, it makes me know when I've thought about that problem enough. Like, does that make sense? Like, I'll keep working the problem.
It does.
Yeah.
The reason I suggest a visual image for identity work is because our mind cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality.
Yeah, for sure. Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we've made so many references to movies. Of course, I'm going to use a movie. When you watch something and an animal gets hurt, like a dog gets shot, most of us get emotional. Some of us cry, right? Now, we do know.
Do you know my wife? It's like you know her.
Nah.
Right? Like, we know there are probably 7 identical puppies on the set, but we believe the animal got hurt. How
we
many
only
of us
killed
go
one of
on
them.
the haunted hay rides, right? And technically we know that those actors are like college kids who are trying to make $10. But we freak out when they jump out at us because we tell ourselves that we're on a haunted hayride. So when you have an image of yourself in the next level identity, whether it's a fit, healthy, like fitness conscious person, or a successful business owner, or a podcaster, or an actor, or a nurse, like whatever it is you want, and you see that image, and it's not a cutout picture of somebody, it's actually you. This is not lying. This is using yourself as a tuning fork to get yourself to a higher frequency. Musicians do it with musical instruments all the time. They use the tuning fork.
That's an interesting look at it. Wow. Well, Lena, like I said, I could literally pull this apart all night. I think we do have
great stuff.
One reality that we can't ignore is people turn us off right around now-ish. So
I wonder how many people, now that we've been manifesting that, have done it.
Well, it's funny. You want to talk about manifestation? That's a good point, Tom. We said that all the time. We're like, hey, people stop listening.
You get your stats for the show and they're like, at about this time, and it was like 67, 68 minutes.
Yeah. But you know what, Tom, you are not taking into consideration here. And Lena, this is perfect timing to have this conversation with you. Tom and I said that. And then Tom, do you remember what we said after that? We said, I don't give a fuck. We're just going to have whatever conversation we want to have.
We're just going to keep going.
And Lena, you want to know the funniest thing? Tom just looked at our stats the other day. We've gone up in total percentage. People are now listening to over 75% of the show. But that didn't start happening until about the same time. Tom and I are like, you know what? Fuck it. We're just going to have the conversation we want to have. And that's all.
And it's going to last. Yeah, we'll try and keep it around an hour, but who cares?
Whatever it is, right? Like, and what happened? People started listening to more. It's weird, isn't it?
Because when we don't white knuckle the dream, we allow the energy to flow. Yeah.
But it's just funny. I hadn't even thought about that in this context, and this kind of unearthed it. I'm like, motherfucker, will you look at that? So Lena, how do we, this is the Lena commercial time. So how do we connect people with you? What do you want to tell anybody about how to find you or what?
Absolutely. So of course I have a website, and it's a pretty simple website. It's the name of my business. It's atlas-paradigm.com. And that's where you can learn more about me. You can learn about my work. And also, in the 21st century, and everybody stalks each other on social media. So I always tell people, absolutely come and do stalk me on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram.
Sure.
Because you want to get to know me as a human and see if I'm a frequency match to who you are and what you're looking for.
I see what you did there. I like it. It's funny. Somebody asked me today, he's coming on the show. He's like, you don't ask any questions ahead of time? And I'm like, no, man. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because here's the thing. I just want to know about you because you are the reason why you're doing whatever you're doing that we're going to talk about. So if I don't hear that story, that's why Tom and I only have basically one question. It's like, how'd you get here? It's because that's really the only thing that matters, because you got here because of that story, right? So whatever you're doing.
The funniest
now,
guests are the ones that send us like possible interview questions, and we're like, yeah, we're not even looking at that. Yeah. So sorry. That's
in fact,
too
you've
long.
now guaranteed we'll never look at that. Yeah, no. I feel dirty looking at this email now. I'm going to hit delete. Yeah. So yeah, you're easy to find, and I encourage people to definitely go check it out. I especially encourage people to look at people like you especially, because we're having a conversation with you. Open this conversation up because it is fascinating when I've opened it up in my past. And as we have more conversations like this, I think Tom and I are doing that more. And like, we just hosted a world premiere of a movie, and that came out of us literally being like, we want to do a cool, unique project. And literally 3 episodes later, this dude's on our show. He's like, I got an idea. And we're like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
You know, and it is very fascinating. And that's why I, at the beginning of the show, was asking of clarity around the placebo doesn't matter, because like, I still struggle with the coincidence of this all. Like, there's no such thing as coincidence in my mind, but like, it is fascinating correlations between, hey, we really would love it to take this next step. Let's do an event. Great. Here's a guy who just gave us an event. And by the way, gave us a great event, not just like a $125 refund check. You know what I mean? Not to shit on your refund check. This was an important check.
I think the refund check is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I get super excited for $3.28 like class action lawsuits from an iPhone I bought in 1999 or something. You know, like, you're like, what?
I always fill those out, and then like 5 years later, they're like, here's $635 from, and you're like, oh, that's right.
Yeah. You're like, this is awesome that all of my time was rewarded with this quarter of a cup of Starbucks coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so. Cool. Well, Lena, thanks again for sitting down with us. This was a lot of fun.
So much.
I love it.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Enjoy the weekend, everyone. And talk to you next time. Later.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.